The next big loss in the auto market isn't coming from sedans, it's coming from trucks.
Thousands of trucks ready for sale, just sitting unused in lots.
Certain pickups are showing early signs of collapse, prices are cracking, incentives are climbing, and resale confidence is quietly evaporating. But here's the part no one wants to say: this was built into the design. Which trucks are most vulnerable? Why is the timing so dangerous now? And how much value disappears by 2026? Because this isn't speculation, it's already underway. Ram 1500. Luxury did not ruin this truck overnight. Quiet engineering compromises did it. Ram 1500, equipped with air suspension from model years 2024 through 2025, entered the market promising refinement without sacrifice. Adjustable ride height, smoother highway manners, and showroom appeal boosted early demand. Yet beneath that polish sits a system the resale market increasingly treats as unstable risk rather than premium value. Air suspension adds compressors, airlines, moisture traps, height sensors, control modules, and software coordination. Each component works only if every other component behaves perfectly. Cold temperatures harden seals. Road salt corrodes fittings. Minor sensor drift triggers warning cycles that disable leveling. Once failures appear, repair paths escalate quickly because manufacturers bundle parts instead of addressing single faults. Market data already reflects this exposure. Used listings with air suspension linger longer, price reductions arrive sooner, and warranty expiration creates sharp drops in asking prices. Dealers quietly factor future suspension replacement into trade offers, compressing value even when trucks present clean histories and low mileage. Repair economics drive the fear. A simple ride height issue often leads to compressor replacement, valve block service, recalibration labor, and software updates. Costs stack rapidly, pushing owners toward full system replacement rather than targeted fixes. Many then convert to conventional coil springs, permanently signaling to future buyers that the original configuration failed. This matters because resale markets punish uncertainty more than inconvenience. A worn seat can be priced, a cracked windshield can be replaced. An integrated suspension system with unpredictable lifespan forces conservative pricing. That pressure compounds across auctions, wholesale lanes, and dealer inventories, accelerating depreciation curves ahead of calendar age. As incentives rise on newer inventory, used values face further compression. Buyers compare discounted new trucks against complex used ones and choose predictability. The result is a widening gap between advertised original value and actual transaction prices. Ram 1500 air suspension models are not collapsing from neglect. They are declining because complexity erodes trust faster than marketing can restore it. And if suspension technology can undermine confidence this quickly, the next truck shows what happens when software multiplies the same risk, even as manufacturers promise seamless updates and effortless ownership experiences that history repeatedly proves unreliable overall. Chevrolet Colorado. Technology promised control, but instead delivered confusion at highway speed. Chevrolet Colorado and GMC Canyon, from model years 2024 through 2025, arrived redesigned, modernized, and aggressively digitized. On paper, the trucks looked competitive, efficient, and advanced. In practice, resale markets are already reacting to instability that does not age gracefully once warranties fade. These mid-size platforms depend heavily on integrated software to manage braking, steering assist, cameras, sensors, power delivery, and driver alerts. When those systems communicate cleanly, the experience feels refined. When they misread data, consequences escalate fast. Reports of false obstacle detection, phantom braking events, frozen camera feeds, and inconsistent warning cascades have reshaped confidence long before high mileage appears. Depreciation follows perception. Wholesale buyers discount risk before failures become universal. Dealers adjust trade offers defensively, anticipating diagnostic labor that cannot be priced accurately. A mechanical repair has limits. A software anomaly introduces unknowns that extend beyond parts and into downtime. The market understands this distinction. Trucks burdened by electronic uncertainty require dealership intervention rather than independent resolution. Updates depend on manufacturer approval, training availability, and back-end systems that evolve constantly. Each delay compounds carrying cost, rental expense, and buyer hesitation. Fuel efficiency improves improvements and performance gains cannot offset that exposure. When comparable competitors offer simpler configurations, used pricing compresses faster on platforms perceived as electronically fragile. Auction lanes reflect this shift quietly but consistently, with lower opening bids and faster reserve adjustments. Another pressure arrives through safety scoring incentives. Features added to satisfy regulatory benchmarks increase complexity without increasing durability. That gap between expectation and reality drives sharper value drops than mechanical wear ever could. And if software instability can undermine confidence this early, the next truck proves how low demand alone can collapse resale regardless of features, incentives, or marketing momentum. That collapse accelerates when production outpaces demand. Incentives distort pricing signals, and dealers quietly retreat from long-term exposure, preparing inventories for steeper write-downs that arrive without warning or sympathy as calendar pressure intensifies across wholesale channels nationwide quickly. If this breakdown is already changing how you look at truck values, hit like to help others see it, subscribe for the next rankings, and comment which model surprised you most so this conversation stays alive as prices keep shifting. Nissan Titan. Neglect does not announce itself loudly. It reveals itself through silence. Nissan Titan and Titan. Extra duty from model years 2024 through 2025 exist in a strange market vacuum. They are not catastrophic trucks. They are not breakthrough trucks either. They are simply ignored. And resale markets punish indifference more brutally than failure. Sales volume tells the first story. Low turnover limits, buyer familiarity, weakens demand signals, and discourages long-term support investment. When trucks stop moving new, used pricing loses its foundation. Dealers hesitate to stock them. Auctions hesitate to bid. Value erodes. Ownership economics amplify that slide. Parts sourcing takes longer. Specialized knowledge becomes scarce. Minor repairs stretch into weeks, creating downtime that resale algorithms now factor automatically. Even routine service uncertainty lowers confidence before mileage climbs. Titan depreciation accelerates because market memory matters. Competing full-size pickups maintain visibility through fleets, advertising, and continuous updates. Titan fades between cycles. That absence trains buyers to negotiate aggressively or walk away. Incentives mask the decline temporarily. Discounts move units, but they also reset perceived value downward. Once incentives disappear, used prices struggle to recover because reference pricing collapsed earlier. The market rarely forgets those signals. Fuel consumption, dated interior design, and limited technology updates compound the problem. None alone would destroy resale. Together, they signal stagnation. Stagnation convinces pricing models that capital should flow elsewhere. As manufacturers consolidate resources, uncertainty grows. Long-term commitment questions shadow every listing. Even perfectly maintained examples suffer because resale is driven by future confidence, not past condition. Titan and Titan Extra Duty are not victims of scandal. They are casualties of strategic drift. When a product feels optional to its maker, the market treats it as disposable. And that silence around the Titan is spreading elsewhere because the next truck reveals how sudden reinvention, not neglect, can fracture trust when legacy expectations collide with forced change, rushed timelines, and engineering decisions that reshape perception faster than reliability. Histories can recover under mounting market pressure and unforgiving resale math ahead quickly. Toyota Tacoma. Trust collapses fastest when certainty has been assumed for too long. It entered its redesign cycle for model year 2025, carrying decades of earned confidence. Previous generations built reputations on predictability, mechanical simplicity, and long-term durability. That legacy amplified expectations. When the redesign shifted priorities, the market reacted sharply. The new Tacoma introduced turbocharged power, expanded electronics, and tightly integrated control systems. Performance metrics improved, efficiency numbers climbed. Yet resale markets focus less on specifications and more on behavioral patterns emerging early in ownership cycles. Those patterns are now driving caution. Reports of inconsistent throttle response, transmission hesitation, and software instability surfaced quickly. Warning lights appearing without clear cause, infotainment freezes, driver assistance interruptions, and unexplained battery drain reshaped perception. None of these issues alone define failure. Together, they introduce uncertainty into a nameplate once synonymous with certainty. Depreciation models adjust rapidly when expectations are broken. Tacoma resale strength historically relied on assumption rather than inspection. Buyers paid premiums sight unseen because history reduced perceived risk. The redesign disrupted that shortcut. Now pricing reflects inspection, not assumption. Market pressure compounds the effect. Turbocharged systems operate under higher stress. Thermal management becomes critical. Repair complexity rises. Long-term durability data does not yet exist. Without that data, resale markets default to caution. Caution compresses prices. Dealer behavior confirms the shift. Trade offers show wider spreads between comparable years. Listings remain active longer. Incentives quietly appear where premiums once ruled. The change feels subtle, but subtle shifts drive large value corrections over time. This is not a rejection of Toyota as a brand. It is a recalibration of expectations. When a product departs from the traits that defined its value, markets respond defensively until evidence restores confidence. Tacoma still performs. It still attracts attention. What it no longer commands automatically is unquestioned resale dominance. That distinction matters as 2026 approaches, and competitive pressure intensifies across mid-size segments. And if a reputation built over decades can soften this quickly, the next truck shows how a single powertrain decision can inject even deeper uncertainty, pushing depreciation curves steeper as unanswered questions stack faster than confidence can rebuild in tightening resale environments nationwide. Toyota Tundra. Reinvention carries the highest risk when a reputation was built on never changing. Toyota Tundra, from model years 2022 through 2025, marked a radical departure from a formula that defined reliability for decades. The naturally aspirated V8 was replaced by a twin-turbocharged V6 promising efficiency, torque, and modern compliance. What the market received instead was uncertainty, and resale markets react brutally to broken assumptions. The new powertrain delivers strong numbers on paper. In practice, early ownership patterns have reshaped confidence. Reports of turbo wastegate issues, bearing failures, excessive heat cycling, and manufacturing debris contamination surfaced sooner than expected. Even when addressed under warranty, perception shifted. Toyota buyers historically paid premiums because durability was assumed. Once assumption disappears, pricing changes immediately. Resale models adjust fast when first-generation risk replaces long-term certainty. Twin turbos introduce thermal stress. High-pressure fuel systems add complexity. Tight packaging increases labor exposure. None of these guarantee failure, but markets price the possibility aggressively. Dealers already separate V6 Tundras from older V8 models in trade valuations. Auction bids soften earlier. Warranty coverage becomes central to negotiations rather than a bonus. The damage here is reputational, not mechanical. Toyota's brand strength magnifies the effect. When even Toyota experiments, buyers hesitate longer and discount sooner. Long-term durability data does not yet exist, and without it, resale markets default to caution. Caution compresses value. The Tundra may prove durable over time. That outcome will not protect resale today. Markets price what has been proven, not what is promised. As 2026 approaches, first-generation turbo uncertainty continues to weigh on values, accelerating depreciation long before failures become widespread. But powertrain uncertainty is only one way confidence erodes. Sometimes, depreciation accelerates even when engines survive, because the problem isn't under the hood. It's built into how the vehicle behaves every mile it travels. When stability, control, and predictability become conditional rather than assumed, resale markets react faster than failure rates can be measured. Buyers don't wait for data when daily driving itself introduces friction. They discount immediately to protect against consequences that cannot be fully repaired or recalibrated away. That dynamic becomes unavoidable when design priorities favor image and articulation over highway composure. The next truck shows how off-road heritage can collide with on-road reality, creating persistent ownership friction that resale markets treat as structural risk rather than isolated defects. That collision reshapes value curves quickly once confidence at speed begins to crack, long before mileage, age, or neglect ever enter the conversation. Jeep Gladiator. Image can carry a product only until physics intervenes. Jeep Gladiator, from model years 2024 through 2025, enters resale lanes with one advantage and several penalties. The design projects toughness, adventure, and heritage. The market, however, prices behavior rather than branding, and behavior tells a different story. The Gladiator platform inherits a solid front axle configuration that prioritizes articulation over stability. At highway speeds, small tolerances magnify into steering oscillations, oscillations that require corrective components to manage: track bars, stabilizers, alignment adjustments, and control arm. Revisions become common ownership expenses rather than elective upgrades. Depreciation accelerates because these costs arrive unpredictably. Resale pricing models treat recurring steering intervention as structural risk. Even examples that have been serviced carry stigma because fixes address symptoms, not architecture. That distinction matters when confidence drives value. Transmission behavior compounds concern. Reports of inconsistent engagement, delayed shifts, and abrupt response undermine smooth operation. These traits do not always trigger recalls, yet they reshape perception quietly. Markets discount quietly as well. The Gladiator also suffers from positioning conflict. It is neither a dedicated work truck nor a refined daily driver. That ambiguity narrows demand pools in secondary markets, leaving inventory exposed longer and priced lower. Dealer behavior reflects this shift. Trade offers trend conservative. Listings require repeated adjustments. Auction participation thins when comparable alternatives exist, with fewer question marks. None of this suggests immediate failure. It signals erosion. Value declines not from collapse, but from accumulation of friction that buyers no longer accept at premium prices. As 2026 approaches, competition intensifies. Buyers compare capability against consequence. When consequence feels uncertain, pricing responds swiftly. Jeep Gladiator remains visually compelling. Resale markets, however, have moved past image. They focus on stability, predictability, and total cost exposure across ownership cycles. Residual forecasts adjust early when narratives shift, and this platform now carries enough unanswered questions to force conservative bids, cautious inventory planning, and faster write-downs across dealer groups, watching floor plan exposure tighten under slowing turnover conditions as liquidity pressure builds nationwide rapidly. And if reputation tension alone can weigh this heavily on value, the next truck shows how safety-related scrutiny transforms depreciation from gradual slide into rapid correction once confidence breaks completely. The next half of this list is where depreciation accelerates fast. Ford Super Duty F250. Strength does not protect value when trust fractures at the steering wheel. Ford Super Duty F2, 50 and F3. 50 from model years 2020 through 2021 entered service as pillars of capability. These trucks were built to tow, haul, and endure. What they carried instead was a flaw that resale markets never forget: compromised steering confidence. A defect within the steering shaft assembly created conditions where separation could occur under normal operation. This was not cosmetic. This was directional control. Once that risk surfaced, the conversation around these trucks changed permanently. Safety perception does not fade with repairs. It embeds itself into pricing memory. Recall timelines compounded the damage. Delays left. Thousands operating under restrictions, guidance notices, and uncertainty. Fleets reacted first. Secondary markets followed. When institutional buyers step back, value erosion accelerates regardless of individual condition. Even corrected trucks suffer. Repairs address hardware, not reputation. Auction lanes price stigma alongside mileage. Dealers hedge exposure with conservative offers. Listings linger longer than comparable years without the same history. Depreciation here is structural. Heavy-duty buyers expect reliability under load. Any suggestion of compromised control triggers aggressive discounting. That response is not emotional, it is actuarial. The resale impact extends beyond steering. Insurance scrutiny increases. Financing terms tighten. Extended warranties become negotiation leverage rather than reassurance. Each friction point compresses value incrementally until losses compound. Market behavior confirms the shift. Trade spreads widened. Wholesale bids softened. These trucks no longer anchor value the way earlier Super Duty generations once did. They carry a footnote that pricing models cannot ignore. This is not a judgment on capability. These trucks still work. It is a judgment on risk tolerance. When alternatives exist without the same history, capital flows away quickly. As 2026 approaches, heavy-duty segments face renewed competition and tightening margins. Trucks carrying unresolved narrative weight fall first, and if steering-related trust can permanently rewrite value trajectories. The next truck shows how internal engine failures push depreciation from caution into outright avoidance, once mechanical confidence disappears entirely across resale channels. Chevrolet Silverado 1500. Power becomes a liability when it threatens its own survival. Chevrolet Silverado 1500 or GMC Sierra 1500, equipped with the 6.2L engine from model years 2021 through 2024, were positioned as halo offerings. Big displacement, premium pricing, and flagship branding promised confidence. What followed instead reshaped resale math across the full-size segment. Internal engine failures triggered recalls that cut deeper than surface defects. Connecting rod issues, crankshaft damage, lifter collapse, and excessive oil consumption transformed performance pride into mechanical anxiety. These are not inconveniences. These are catastrophic failure modes, capable of ending an engine without warning. Repair economics magnify the damage. Complete engine replacement cost dwarf ordinary maintenance. Even when covered, downtime stretches. When uncovered, valuation collapses instantly. Markets respond early to that risk by discounting aggressively before mileage accumulates. Manufacturers attempted mitigation through revised lubrication strategies and updated service guidance. Resale markets interpreted that response as uncertainty rather than reassurance. Confidence does not recover when fixes feel provisional. The effect cascades through auctions and trade negotiations. Buyers assume worst-case exposure. Dealers hedge floor plan risk. Insurance and warranty pricing adjust upward. Each layer extracts value. The 6.2L engine also carries historical baggage. Active cylinder management failures from prior generations already primed skepticism. The new recall confirmed lingering vulnerability rather than progress. Once a pattern appears, pricing models adapt quickly. Listings now show longer dwell times and wider negotiation spreads. Comparable trims without this engine retain stronger footing, isolating the powertrain as the depreciation driver rather than the truck itself. This matters because halo engines anchor brand perception. When the top tier falters, confidence weakens across the lineup. That shadow effect pushes depreciation faster than isolated component failures ever could. Chevrolet Silverado 1500 and GMC Sierra 1500, with the 6.2L engine, are not uniformly failing. They are uniformly questioned. In resale markets, question marks translate directly into price cuts. This pressure compounds quickly as expectations reset, and buyers demand larger discounts to compensate risk exposure. As 2026 approaches, uncertainty compounds. Warranty expirations approach. Recall memory persists. Buyers discount future risk today, and if engine confidence alone can rewrite value curves this dramatically, the next truck shows how layered complexity multiplies. That effect once electrification enters systems. Ford F-150 Power Boost Hybrid. Innovation moved faster than integration, and value paid the price. From model years 2021 through 2024 marked a turning point for full-size trucks. The promise was compelling. Electric torque, improved efficiency, and seamless integration with familiar capability. The execution introduced layers of dependency that resale markets quickly learned to discount. The Power Boost system combines internal combustion, electric motors, high-voltage batteries, cooling circuits, power electronics, software controllers, and transmission coordination. Each element must communicate flawlessly. When communication falters, symptoms cascade. Warning messages, shutdowns, loss of assist, and immobilization. Market behavior reflects that exposure. Trade offers separate Power Boost trucks from conventional configurations. Auction bids factor diagnostic time, parts availability, and technician specialization. Downtime becomes an assumed cost, compressing value well before failures appear. Warranty coverage temporarily cushions risk, but expiration changes behavior. High voltage repairs limit independent service, anchoring solutions to dealership pipelines. Delays compound, rentals accumulate, confidence erodes. This is not rejection of efficiency, it is repricing of complexity. When multiple systems must age perfectly together, resale markets assume they will not. As 2026 approaches, early Power Boost examples carry accumulated uncertainty that pushes depreciation curves steeper. Value declines accelerate not from neglect, but from anticipation of compounded repair exposure. And if hybrid complexity unsettles markets this deeply, the next truck reveals how full electric dependency magnifies that effect dramatically, reshaping depreciation timelines faster than innovation narratives can adapt as infrastructure, incentives, and expectations collide under tightening market conditions. Nationwide, setting the stage for the final ranking, where value erosion reaches its most visible extreme, yet amid accelerating inventory pressure and rapidly shifting buyerless resale sentiment across domestic pickup segments. That final shift arrives when resale confidence depends entirely on charging access, software stability, battery health, and long-term replacement economics, variables that redefine risk, compress pricing, and force dealers to reassess inventory exposure faster than traditional truck depreciation cycles cycles ever demanded, ensuring the countdown concludes with a model whose value reversal dominates headlines, auctions, and balance sheets simultaneously as market reality overtakes ambition without warning or recovery. Windows left open ahead for anyone watching. Ford F1 F50 Lightning. Momentum can reverse faster than steel once confidence disappears. Ford F1 50 Lightning arrived with historic anticipation, record reservations, and pricing that assumed permanent demand. Early adopters paid premiums for innovation, performance, and future positioning. What followed instead was a rapid recalibration that resale markets now treat as a warning signal. Electric architecture reshapes every ownership assumption. Battery capacity, thermal management, charging speed, software stability, and infrastructure availability all define value more than mileage ever could. When any variable shifts, depreciation accelerates. The Lightning exposed that vulnerability quickly. Real-world range declines under load. Cold weather compounds losses. Charging access varies widely. Software updates alter behavior unpredictably. Insurance costs rise due to repair complexity. Each factor alone pressures value. Together, they compound. Market behavior reflects this shift. Incentives expanded sharply as inventory accumulated. Used listings grew faster than demand. Auction pricing softened visibly. Early premiums evaporated. Resale curves bent downward sooner than traditional truck cycles anticipate. Battery aging introduces a unique uncertainty premium. Replacement economics remain unclear. Long-term degradation data remains incomplete. Without certainty, pricing models default to caution. That caution compresses value aggressively across resale channels. Dealer exposure intensified the effect as inventory lingered longer than planned. Floor plan costs rise on slow-moving electrics. Inventory pressuring margins daily. Discounts follow to reduce carrying risk. Once new pricing resets, used pricing collapses behind it faster than traditional cycles allow. The gap widens quickly, locking in losses, reshaping expectations, and forcing dealers to reprice assets defensively before confidence erodes further across auctions, listings, and balance sheets. Technological cadence worsens the problem. Newer battery chemistry, improved charging, and extended range arrive rapidly. Earlier versions age faster in perception, even when condition remains strong. Obsolescence arrives early. This is not rejection of electrification. It is repricing of transition risk. Markets reward stability. They punish uncertainty. Ford F1 50 Lightning illustrates that shift vividly. Hype created height. Reality introduced gravity. Value corrected accordingly. The Lightning does not fail mechanically. It depreciates structurally. And while this countdown ends here, the implications do not. The next chapter reveals how markets separate durable innovation from costly experimentation, reshaping truck valuation models long after headlines fade and optimism retreats, leaving balance sheets to absorb the difference between promise and proof under relentless financial scrutiny. This list isn't about brands or hype. It's about timing, confidence, and where the market is quietly heading. Values don't collapse all at once. They slide, then snap. Dealers already see which trucks are cracking. If you have noticed these signs on any other models that we haven't talked about on this video, comment the name down below. The real cost shows up later when exits narrow and options disappear. Stay ahead of that curve, subscribe to our channel, and like this video.